Hello everyone, welcome in today. This is going to be our new Dynasty file. We are going to create a coach named Carter Jake Jr. and he is going to be the offensive coordinator for Penn State when he starts out. He is going to end up moving around the country just like I was going to do in the Kent Williams Carousel Dynasty that we just had to end on the channel. So I'm going to go ahead and make him 30 years old. We're going to run our same offense we ran at Buffalo with the Kent, like I said, the Kent Williams Carousel Dynasty, and we're going to go from there. We're going to do some recruiting for Penn State, but I honestly expect them to only be our team for one season, and I'm really hoping to move on to a head coaching job to start building his career. But we'll have to see. Backstory for Carter Jake Jr. I'm going to say he was an offensive coordinator at Albany before Penn State called him up and said, hey, you did a good job at the University of Albany and we're going to hire you here. So Carter Jake Jr. came from the state of Florida and he's a Gator at heart, but starting out, he took the job at Penn State after being up north coaching his college career early on. Getting into some of the new changes with this Dynasty file, the lower 5 conferences are going to have to compete their way up to try to get into the Power 5. What do I mean, you ask? Well, the American's going to be the top one. So if a team wins the American Athletic Conference and they go completely undefeated, they are guaranteed a chance to move up to the Power 5. And then if, per se, they are like an 8-win team and they don't move up automatic, well, they're going to be able to play their way into the Power 5. So a regional conference, so like, for example, we'll say Coastal Carolina, they could go into the SEC or the ACC. So whoever has the worst record of the two, Coastal Carolina will play the lowest team in that, and I'll make it happen during the bowl week. And if the Coastal Carolina beats that team, they will move up to the Power 5 and replace that team. So there's going to be some changes throughout this dynasty, but I thought it was a real cool way to do it and just make it a little bit different. But more on that later. Next, we're going to take a look at the Penn State roster. It's going to be pretty close to how it is in real life, far from perfect though. Our starting quarterback's definitely going to be sophomore quarterback Drew Aller. He's not much of a scrambler, but he does have a good arm, and I think he's going to be the main reason I took this job. I wanted to see what I could do with him. At running back, we have Nick Singleton and Keytron Allen leading the way. They're both going to get carries. The receivers, we're just scrolling through showing you everybody. I expect DeWalt on Dejo, who's a freshman that I recruited in the offseason before this started, to make an impact on this team. And, you got Olu Fashani at left tackle. That is a huge name right there. We're just looking at the offense, though, because I'm not at all concerned about the defense with this team. At the end of the day, my only concern is being offensive coordinator of Penn State, and it's only going to be for this season. So there's going to be a lot of things that are typically shown that I'm not going to show when it comes to the defense. We're just going to sim through it, jump right back to the offensive plays, and get through these games. And hopefully at the end of the season, you can see Coach KJ get a head coaching job, and we'll go from there. But we're going to, develop storylines on the offense. But as an offensive coordinator, you are not focused on the defense. So I'm trying to be as true to that as possible. Where maybe in a big game, if we make it to the Natty, we'll watch the defense. But right now, my only goal is, how is our offense? Let's, make the storylines for our offense and see what happens from there. Now, taking a look at our schedule, we open up against Temple and Pitt, and then we play Minnesota, Nebraska, Rutgers, Michigan, Maryland, TCU, Ohio State, Purdue, Indiana, and Michigan State. The ranked games are really what will make us a good team or not. So Michigan, Ohio State, TCU, and Pittsburgh are all ranked coming into this season, and how we perform against them will either make or break this season. I look forward to showing it off to you though and going from there. Now we're going to take a look at some recruiting. I'm really not going to talk about it that much. We're just looking at some of the players on our board in the background. Like I said, we're not going to get too attached to these guys. We'll probably never have any of them play for us at all. At least that's my hope. Next thing we're going to be talking about is the conference and how all those are going to go. The American is going to be the top, like I mentioned earlier. The MAC will be number 2. The number 3 conference will be the Sun Belt. The number 4 will be the Mountain West. The number 5 will be the CUSA, and then the lowest one's obviously the Independent, and that's only going to have the worst team in the nation on there. The team that falls out of the CUSA will go to the Independent as long as the Independent team wins more games than them. That's the only way that a CUSA team will not fall down to the Independent standings. So each winner will move up to the next conference. So if you win the CUSA, you move up to the Mountain West. If you win the Mountain West, you move up to the Sun Belt. If you win the Sun Belt, you move up to the MAC. If you win the MAC, you move up to the American. And if you win the American and you go undefeated, you're automatically going to the Power 5. The other way you can automatically qualify for the Power 5 is if a team in your regional Power 5 conference does not win any games. So for example, if you are Well, like I said, Coastal Carolina, and in the ACC, Syracuse doesn't win any games, they go 0-12, you're automatically moving up. You don't have to play them to get into the conference. Now, like I said, I'm going to set it up during the bowl week to where if, say, Syracuse is the worst team in the ACC and they're worse than the SEC team, so they have 1 win, but in the SEC's worst team like Vanderbilt has 2, so they would play their way into the ACC. Coastal would then, during the bowl week, I'm going to make them play each other. And I know you can do it in the mod, and I've already tested it out, it worked. So if you play each other during the bowl week and Coastal Carolina beats Syracuse, Coastal Carolina then will move up to the Power 5. Syracuse will fall back to the American and have to fight their way back up to the Power 5. So that's how we're going to do it. It's just a little intrigue at the lower half and gives you a chance to build a team up. So maybe I do go to the Sun Belt and spend 2 or 3 years there. I could potentially get them up to a Power 5 school and then maybe decide to stick around a little bit longer. I don't think that's the way this is going to go, but that does not mean it can't happen. You know, I don't know what's going to end up happening, and the lower conferences are all going to be messed up. They're not going to be regional, and I really didn't want to do it with each conference at the Power 5 level losing a team. I didn't want to get crazy unrealistic at the beginning. I just wanted the first year of it to be a little bit unpredictable in the essence of like, oh, all of a sudden we're fighting our way up. Now, the conferences are going to be a little weird at first. Notre Dame was supposed to be put in the American. I accidentally put them in the Sun Belt, so they're now going to have to fight their way up from the Sun Belt all the way up. However, taking a look at the American, the first division, you have ECU, Memphis, Charlotte, USF, Navy, and Temple. And of those, you know, one of them will get a chance to compete for the conference title and maybe move their way up. On the other side, you have Tulane, SMU, UAB, Western Kentucky, UTSA, and Texas State. Any one of them could meet the other team and move their way up into the Power 5. The MAC's the MAC, nothing changed there. All of the teams remain the same. The other thing I wanted to say is the top 2 conferences will have divisions. That's the other way I set it up. I wanted to make sure that they had to play each other for a conference championship to be able to move up, just so that way, you know, it's a little bit more realistic. The lower ones, however, will not have conference championship games. They're just going to have a winner move up. So you got Notre Dame, Georgia State, App State, South Alabama, James Madison, Louisiana, Georgia Southern, Troy, ULM, Coastal Carolina, and Arkansas State in the Sun Belt. They are going to fight their way up to try to get into the MAC. The next conference we're going to look at is the CUSA. They are the lowest conference in our whole dynasty here. We're going to look at teams. There's Tulsa, UTEP, Louisiana Tech, North Texas, Marshall, Rice, ODU, Southern Miss, Mid-Tennessee State, and Florida Atlantic comprising the CUSA. They have to work their way all the way up to the top, and Army is at the very bottom in our conference. Like I said, or in our dynasty, they're going to be all on their own. They're the only team at the bottom. They got to work their way every step of the way up to the top. It's definitely possible in this dynasty. So I just want to thank everyone for watching. This is LDJ11. Have a great day. Please like and subscribe, and I look forward to bringing this dynasty to you. I'm out.
And sometimes you just gotta believe there's something that'll give you relief. There's something that'll have what you need, what you need. We're broken, it's tragic, we're not all elastic, but maybe there's magic. Believe you could have it.